Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about the Too Faced Italian Spritz palette. I picked this up right around launch date and I've been using it for around 2 weeks now. I've done quite a few looks with it and I feel like I know all of the shades pretty well at this point and I feel ready to share my thoughts with you on them. This first shade is Holy Cannoli and it is a matte pale peach. It is dark enough that it shows up well on my skin tone. I'm pretty light and a lot of peach shades don't show up super well on me, but this one has very good pigmentation and it shows up well. Ciao Bellini is a peach shimmer with some larger golden sparkles. This has a little bit of a waxier, thicker feel to it. It is also somewhat sheer, so I have to build up a few layers for it to really pop on the lid. It swatches well and it picks up easily on my finger. It's just a little bit more difficult to pick up on a brush. When in Rome is a vivid bright pink. This shade, it has a lot of pigmentation, very good color payoff, but at the same time it is also easy to build up slowly. It blends out smoothly along the edges. I am able to easily use this in a very sheer, light manner, or I can build it up to be very opaque if that's what I'm wanting. Take Me to Church is very similar in finish and feel as the shade Ciao Bellini, which I swatched a couple shades ago. The color is also very similar. It's just a little bit more pink leaning than that one is. On the lid, they both have kind of a similar effect, so I can use them interchangeably, just depending if I want more of a like orangey color or more of a pinky color. Feelin' Saucy, that's a kind of a deep burnt orange. This is one of the best mattes in the palette. It has one of the best color payoffs, but like the shade When in Rome, it also builds up slowly if that's what I want. It blends nicely along the edges. I can sheer it out if I want. Late Como is a light baby blue shimmer. It is one of the more sheer shimmers in the palette. It also has a different feel to it than the shades Take Me to Church and Ciao Bellini. Those two have a thicker, waxier feel to them. And this one is a little bit more dry to the touch. It isn't a dry shade per se, it's just doesn't feel as emollient or sticky as those other two do. There is one other shade in the palette that has that same feel to it, and it is the shade Spritz and Glitz. These two shades, they require a little bit of extra help to adhere to the lid. If I apply them just dry, straight to the lid with a brush, they do show up, but they show up sheer with just a wash of color and sparkle. If I want more intensity in the color and shine, then I do recommend using a setting spray to help amp up the color and shine, or applying them over a sticky base. Something like NYX Glitter Primer works well. Toasted in Tuscany is a neutral light brown. I'm able to use this as a very natural looking sheer transition shade. I can build it up a little bit, but this is probably one of the lightest and most natural looking transition shades that's in this palette for me. It isn't too yellowy and it's not too pinky. It's just kind of very neutral, right in the middle. Has good color payoff. I can build it up heavily and still see it very easily against my skin. It's not too sheer. Let's see if I say this right. Chin Chin. So this shade is a medium bronze metallic. It's got some larger, chunkier flakes in it. The way that I swatched it, it looks like it's a lot messier and chunkier. I don't know why it came out that way. When I used this on the lid, it came out much cleaner. So I don't know, just kind of pay more attention to the ending swatch here as I finished layering it. But on the lid, I found that this was a lot like the others. It's kind of thick and waxy, but this particular one had more color payoff. It was easier to build up more quickly. Um, but I did still have to spend some time kind of manipulating it and making sure it was laying even on the lid. Spritz and Glitz is a lavender with some larger blue sparkles in it. It is kind of a sheer shade, and as a whole, it kind of gives a sheer lavender wash of color. It doesn't have a very opaque base color, so even if I swatch it heavily, I see more of the shimmer than I do of the base color, so it does have a kind of a transparent quality to it. If I build this up heavily on the eye, I do get a nice, easily visible pop of like lavender glow. So, like the shade Late Como, this one does require a little bit of help from a sticky primer or a setting spray if you really want it to pop, and to help a little bit with adhering to the lid. So I have a hard time saying this name. I will try my best here. This is called Spaghetti About It, and it is another medium depth transition shade. It's got more of a pinky peachy tone to it than the shade Toasted in Tuscany, so it doesn't look as natural on my skin tone. It has nice color payoff. I can go sheer or I can build it up heavily. It lays on the lid evenly. Just another nice quality matte. Grappa Don't Preach is a metallic yellow gold. So this one has a similar texture to the waxier shades like Ciao Bellini and Take Me to Church. It's also sheerer in color payoff, just like those are. It takes me lots and lots of layers and lots of building if I just use it on a dry brush. It doesn't adhere as well as I would like if I try to apply it over the mattes, and it doesn't transfer very easily. This one, it will build up much more quickly and much more boldly if I use a setting spray to help the color to show up better. Espresso Yourself is probably one of my least favorite shades in the palette. It is not as deep as I would like it to be. I would have preferred something a little bit darker than this one. It looks like it might be dark enough, but once I put on the lid and combine it with other shades in the palette, it's just not what I'm looking for. The other thing is I have to use a sticky primer with this, or like just a primer that provides good adherence. It appears when you apply this that it sticks well because it kind of is one of those that sticks to the lid and is a little difficult to blend around the edges. It's hard to move once you place it on the skin, but at the same time, it doesn't stay. As I'm completing my makeup and early in the day, I will see that this fades easily in the crease. It also fades as I'm applying shimmers over top of it. If I use it with a good primer, I don't have nearly as much of an issue and it will last pretty well. So it's a little bit unfortunate. I wish this was slightly better quality than it is. It kind of brings down the palette as a whole for me because this is one of those palettes that is a nice mixture of colorful shades but also staple neutrals. So it's one of those kind of rare palettes that you could use in an everyday setting or use it to play with color if you want to. Next up is Lake and Bake, and this is a medium deep, almost like a teal ocean blue. It's really hard to describe. It's really a beautiful blue. It has a kind of a warm matte blue base color to it with a lot of shine and sparkle in it. This shade is kind of waxy, a lot like the shade Chin Chin and Ciao Bellini, Take Me to Church. It's got that same kind of thick feel to it. It is also a little bit difficult to pick up with a brush and transfer, but it is a lot richer in color. It does transfer a little bit more easily and quickly than some of the lighter shades that are the same texture. I don't feel that I need to use a setting spray with this one or sticky primer. It builds up fine all by itself, and it adheres really well once I get it on the skin. yeah, it's one of the better shimmers in this formula. Capri Fun is a very, very vibrant, very pigmented, matte orangey yellow. It kind of toes the line between orange and yellow. It's more yellow than orange, but it's very warm. It's almost orange. Um, this shade, I can use it sheer. I can also use it very heavily and very opaque if I want. It's very similar in quality to the shades When in Rome and Feeling Saucy, so it's one of the better mattes in the palette. It blends easily, it applies evenly. I can shear it out, apply it heavily, like I said earlier, so a very nice matte. Mamma Mia is a reddish purple with a matte finish. This one is similar in quality to Espresso Yourself. Unfortunately, it has a lot of color payoff, and it blends fine. It's just it kind of has that dry quality that Espresso Yourself has, and it doesn't adhere as well as I would like. I definitely need a good primer with this, something that adheres well and that will grab onto the shadow. It also will kind of fade in the crease. If I wear this on bare lids without any primer, it'll start fading in the crease early in the day, or it'll fade as I layer shimmers over top of it. So as long as I use a good primer with it, I'm good. So just know that about this shade. Como After Dark is a very, very deep shimmery gray with some sparkle in it. This is not a matte with sparkle. It's definitely a shimmer with sparkle. It picks up easily and it transfers easily, it builds up well. This shade did kind of intimidate me and scare me because a lot of shades that look like this in a lot of palettes tend to be hard to use and they tend to not sit well or blend well on the lid. So this one was a nice surprise. It performs well. It looks very pretty. I will say it's a little bit lighter than you might expect. It's definitely not a sparkly black. It's more of a deep gunmetal gray with a lot of sparkle and shine in it. Very pretty color. Impostable is a yellow toned medium brown. This is more of like a golden honey brown. Um, it's similar in undertone to Capri Fun. They're both very yellow toned. This one is definitely closer to like an orangey, neutral, more muted kind of yellow. If I shear both of them out, they work well together. I can use the two shades in the same look. But this one is definitely better as like a crease shade if you like doing a lot of neutral looks. Has a nice quality to it, good color payoff, easy to blend. Another one of the very nice mattes in this palette. And the last one is Gelato. This is just a pale cream with a matte shade. It's maybe ever so slightly pink toned. On me it looks pretty neutral and it is a good highlight shade. It's plenty light enough. I don't feel like it darkens once I get it on the skin. It has a nice smooth texture to it. It sits well on the skin and works well to cover up darkness on the inner corner or to kind of even out the skin tone along the brow bone. Alright, well that does it for this review and swatches video. As always, I want to thank you for spending your time with me, and I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.